Captain Jiwan Park stood at the viewport of the small diplomatic shuttle, watching as the massive Navari hive ship grew larger against the backdrop of stars. His heart beat faster. This was his first major diplomatic mission, and it was not starting well. "Sir, the Navari Royal Guards have confirmed our landing clearance," said Lieutenant Do-hyun, the pilot. "They seem impatient." Jiwan nodded. "That makes sense. We did violate their territory." 3 days ago, the Earth exploration ship Pathfinder had accidentally crossed into Navari space. The captain had claimed their navigation systems malfunctioned, but the damage was done. The Navari, an advanced insect-like species that humans had only recently made contact with, demanded immediate talks. Earth Command had chosen Jiwan for this mission because he had studied the limited information available about Navari culture. Still, he felt unprepared. No human had ever been inside a Navari hive ship before. "Remember," he told his small team of 3 diplomats, "show respect at all times. Keep your hands visible, and never make direct eye contact with the Queen unless she speaks to you first." The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. When the airlock opened, Jiwan was hit by strange smells, something like honey mixed with metal. The air was breathable but thick with unfamiliar scents. 6 Navari guards waited for them. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarities ended. Each was nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms, hard exoskeletons in colors, ranging from deep red to blue-black, and large compound eyes that reflected the light in rainbow patterns. Their lower arms held weapons that looked like spears but were clearly advanced technology. "Follow," said one guard through a translation device attached to what Jiwan guessed was its throat. The word came out with a clicking sound underneath. The humans were led through wide corridors with high ceilings. The walls glowed with a soft light that seemed to come from within the material itself. Other Navari stopped their activities to watch the humans pass. Some made rapid clicking sounds. To each other. "They've never seen humans up close before," whispered Mina, one of the diplomats. "We're as strange to them as they are to us." After walking for what seemed like miles through the massive ship, they arrived at a large set of doors made from a material that looked like amber but was clearly much stronger. 4 larger guards stood here, their exoskeletons decorated with gold patterns. "The Queen waits," said their guide. "Only the leader may enter first." Jiwan swallowed hard and nodded to his team. "Wait here. If I'm not back in 1 hour, contact Earth Command." The amber doors slid open silently, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Jiwan stepped through alone. The throne room was unlike anything he had imagined. The ceiling soared at least 50 feet high, with glowing structures that resembled honeycombs covering the walls. The floor was smooth and slightly warm under his boots. At the center of the room was a raised platform, and on it sat the largest Navari he had seen yet. Queen Zithara of the Navari Empire was truly impressive. Nearly 8 feet tall even while seated, her exoskeleton shimmered with blues and greens that seemed to move in patterns. Her forearms were adorned with what looked like jewelry made from unknown metals. Her compound eyes were larger than the others, and they fixed on Jiwan with unsettling intensity. Jiwan stopped at the distance he had been told was respectful and bowed deeply. "Captain Park," said the Queen, her translator producing a voice that was surprisingly pleasant despite the clicking underneath. "I expected your government to send someone more senior." Jiwan kept his eyes down. "Your Imperial Majesty, I bring greetings and apologies from Earth. I am fully authorized to discuss the boundary violation and negotiate appropriate responses." "Look at me when you speak," the Queen commanded. Jiwan raised his eyes, breaking one of the rules he had been taught, but the Queen had ordered it, so he obeyed. "Better," she said. Her mandibles moved in what might have been a smile. "I prefer to see the eyes of those I speak with. Your kind has such expressive faces, so different from my people. Thank you for receiving me, Your Majesty." The Queen's antennae twitched. "The old ways demand serious consequences for violating our territory. In ancient times, we would have declared war for such an act." Jiwan felt cold fear spread through his chest but kept his face calm. "We understand the seriousness of the mistake. Earth wishes to make proper amends. Amends. The Queen repeated the word as if testing it. An interesting concept. But first, let us share a meal. I am curious about your species, Captain Park. No human has ever eaten at the royal table. Before Jiwan could respond, the Queen made a series of clicks that weren't translated. Smaller Navari appeared from side doors, carrying what looked like food on large platters. Your team may join us, the Queen said. I have prepared foods that should be safe for human consumption. Soon, Jiwan's diplomatic team sat at a long table below the Queen's platform. The meal was unlike anything they had experienced before. There were fruits in colors humans had never seen, meats from unknown animals, and strange drinks that changed flavor while being swallowed. The Queen watched them closely, especially Jiwan. She asked many questions about Earth, human biology, and social structures. Jiwan answered carefully, aware that this meal was part of the diplomatic process. You have no queens on Earth? Zithara asked, sounding surprised. We have some monarchs, similar to queens, in some nations, Jiwan explained. But most human, governments are led by elected officials. Elected, you choose your leaders? The Queen's translator couldn't hide her surprise. How strange. How do you ensure they are genetically superior? We value different qualities in leaders than just genetics, Jiwan said carefully. The conversation continued pleasantly. As the meal ended, servers brought a bright blue liquid in crystal glasses. This is royal nectar, the Queen explained. A great honor. It is rarely offered to non-Navari. Jiwan took his glass, and wanting to show proper respect, raised it directly toward the Queen in a toast before drinking. Suddenly, all movement in the room stopped. The serving Navari froze. The Queen's guard stiffened. The Queen's compound eyes widened, and then she made a sound that the translator struggled with before producing what sounded like laughter. You know that means marriage, right? The alien Queen laughed, her mandibles clicking rapidly. In our culture, offering such a gesture to royalty is a formal proposal. Jiwan nearly choked on the sweet nectar. Your Majesty, I had no idea. Please accept my deepest apologies for the misunderstanding. The Queen's antennae twitched in what Jiwan would later learn was amusement. No apology needed, Captain. Such cultural mistakes are expected in first meetings. She leaned forward on her throne, her massive form somehow becoming less threatening. How fortunate that I find your species fascinating. Perhaps this misunderstanding could be the beginning of a most unusual alliance. Alliance? Jiwan repeated, confused but hopeful. Yes, said Queen Zithara. Our empires share borders now. Rather than conflict over your trespass, perhaps we should discuss how humans and Navari might benefit from knowing each other better. Her compound eyes glittered with intelligence. And it seems you have already proposed the perfect diplomatic solution. 3 months had passed since the unexpected diplomatic incident. Captain Jiwan Park now lived in the royal section of the massive Navari hive ship. His small apartment was modified to match Earth gravity and atmosphere. It was comfortable but strange, with walls that seemed alive and furniture designed for bodies very different from his own. Jiwan sat at his desk reviewing reports on his tablet. His official title was now Queen's Consort, and also Human Ambassador to the Navari Empire. The arrangement had prevented what could have been a serious conflict between humans and the insect-like aliens. Earth's government had been shocked but quickly saw the benefits of this unusual diplomatic solution. A soft chime sounded at his door. Enter, Jiwan called. The door slid open to reveal Subin Lee, his friend and fellow diplomat who had arrived from Earth just 2 days ago. Subin would serve as his advisor and connection to Earth Command. Still getting used to your royal quarters? Subin asked with a smile as he entered. Jiwan sighed. 3 months and it still feels unreal. Please tell me you brought real coffee. Subin patted his bag. 2 pounds of the best Korean roast. The smell alone might cause an incident with the Navari guards. They communicate partly through scent, Jiwan explained. Strong new smells can confuse them, but Queen Zithara has ordered them to get used to human scents. The 2 men sat in the curved chairs that had been modified for human bodies. Through the large viewport beside them, They could see the blue-green planet that was the Navari homeworld. "You've become quite famous back home," Subin said, opening his tablet to show Jiwon news stories from Earth. "They're calling it the royal romance even though you keep telling everyone it's just politics." Jiwon frowned at the headlines. "It is political. Queen Zithara has been very kind, but this is all ceremonial to prevent conflict between our species." "Is it, though?" Subin raised an eyebrow. "Her Majesty has learned Korean, built you this human-friendly living space, and according to my sources, has postponed her reproductive cycle. That's a big deal for a Navari queen." "How do you know about her reproductive cycle?" Jiwon asked, surprised. "I read all the briefing materials. Navari queens typically produce new royals every 2 years. She's delayed this because of the diplomatic situation. That suggests serious commitment to this arrangement." Jiwon looked out at the stars. "The situation is complex. The Navari view political and personal relationships very differently than we do." "And how do you view it?" Subin asked quietly. Before Jiwon could answer, his communication device buzzed. A message appeared in both Korean and Navari script. "The Queen requests my presence for our evening cultural exchange," Jiwon said, standing up. "We do this every night. You're welcome to join us." "Are you sure? I wouldn't want to intrude on your quality time with your wife," Subin teased. Jiwon threw a cushion at his friend. "Not funny. This is serious diplomatic work." An hour later, Jiwon and Subin walked through the grand corridors of the royal section. Navari drones and workers stepped aside respectfully. After 3 months, they had grown used to seeing the human in their midst, though they still watched him with curiosity. The royal chamber was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to disappear into darkness above. Queen Zithara sat on her throne platform, but smaller seats had been arranged nearby at her level rather than below. This was a significant honor in Navari culture. The queen's massive form shifted as they entered. Her exoskeleton caught the light, shimmering with blues and greens. Her forearms moved in the formal greeting gesture that Jiwon had learned. "Consort Park, welcome," she said through her translator. Her actual voice was a series of clicks and soft sounds that no human could pronounce correctly. "And you must be Diplomat Lee. We are pleased to welcome another human to our hive." Subin bowed deeply. "Thank you for your hospitality, Your Majesty. It is an honor to meet you. Please join us." The Queen gestured to the seats. "Tonight we were going to discuss human art forms." They sat and were served drinks by silent Navari attendants. Jiwon had grown used to the sweet nectar that the Navari preferred, though he still missed coffee. "I have been studying Korean poetry," Queen Zithara said. "Your concept of Han is fascinating, this deep sorrow and hope that exist together. Navari feel emotions as a group through chemical signals, but your human individual emotions are so complex. Yet you understand them well," Jiwon noted. "Better than many humans I know." The Queen's compound eyes seemed to soften, though Jiwon wasn't sure if that was really possible or just his imagination. "Perhaps because I have never had a reason to study emotions so closely before," she replied. "My purpose has always been to serve the hive's needs." "And is this arrangement serving those needs?" Jiwon asked carefully. "It serves interests I didn't know I had," she answered. Subin watched this exchange with raised eyebrows but said nothing. The cultural discussion continued for 2 hours. The Queen asked many questions about human family structures, art, and history. She seemed particularly interested in Korean traditions. In return, she explained aspects of Navari society that few outsiders had ever learned. When they finished, Queen Zithara dismissed her attendants with a series of clicks. When they were alone, she spoke more directly. "Your friend seems surprised by our interaction," she said to Jiwon. Jiwon nodded. "On Earth, many people think our arrangement is something it isn't." "And what do you think it is?" the Queen asked. "A diplomatic necessity that has become..." He paused, searching for the right word. "A valuable cultural exchange." The Queen's antennae twitched slightly. "Indeed, though I must inform you that my royal council has concerns." "What kind of concerns?" Jiwon asked. "They believe I am becoming too focused on human matters." They remind me that my primary duty is to the hive. They're right, Jiwan said seriously. Your people must come first, just as my duty to Earth comes first. The queen was silent for a moment. Then she said something unexpected. When you first came here, I thought humans were simple creatures. Interesting but simple. I have learned I was wrong. There is nothing simple about you, Jiwan Park. It was the first time she had used his personal name rather than his title. Later, as Jiwan and Subin walked back to their quarters, Subin let out a low whistle. That was not what I expected, he said. What do you mean, Jiwan asked. The way she looks at you, the way you talk together. That's not just politics. Don't start that again, Jiwan warned. The queen is simply curious about humans, and I'm learning about the Navari. That's my job. If you say so, Subin replied. But I've been a diplomat for 10 years, and I've never seen two representatives from different species connect like that. Whatever this is, it's changing both of you. That night, Jiwan couldn't sleep. He stood at his viewport, looking out at the stars and the distant light that was Earth's sun. He thought about Queen Zithara's words. It serves interests I didn't know I had. What did that really mean? And why did those words keep him awake? The communication device on his desk chimed softly. A message appeared in Korean. Humans dream while sleeping. Navari do not. Please explain dreams to me tomorrow. Zijiwan smiled at the message. The queen never stopped asking questions, never stopped trying to understand humans better. And somewhere along the way, he had started trying just as hard to understand her and her people. Perhaps Subin was right after all. This was no longer just about politics, but what it was becoming, Jiwan wasn't sure he was ready to name. 6 months had passed since Jiwan Park accidentally proposed to Queen Zithara. Life on the Navari Royal Hive ship had fallen into a comfortable routine. Jiwan spent his mornings handling communications with Earth, his afternoons learning Navari, language and customs, and his evenings in cultural exchange sessions with the Queen. Today, however, that routine was shattered. Jiwan was reviewing trade agreements when every alarm in the hive ship began to sound at once. The walls pulsed with red light. His communication device buzzed urgently with a message. Come to the war chamber immediately. War chamber. In 6 months, Jiwan had never heard of such a place. He rushed through corridors now filled with Navari, drones moving with purpose. None of them paid him any attention, which was unusual. Normally, the humans on board still attracted curious looks. 2 royal guards waited outside a massive door Jiwan had never seen before. The Queen waits, consort, one said, opening the door. The war chamber was enormous, with a glowing 3-dimensional map of the galaxy at its center. Dozens of Navari moved around the room, their exoskeletons decorated with marks that indicated military rank. Queen Zithara stood at the center platform, all 4 of her arms moving as she gave orders. Jiwan had never seen this side of her before. Gone was the curious philosophical ruler. Here was a military commander, efficient and powerful. Jiwan, she said when she saw him, using his first name in front of her officers. The Craxian Dominion has attacked both Navari and human colonies simultaneously. The Craxians were a reptilian species known for their aggressive expansion. Both humans and Navari had territorial disputes with them, but there had been no open conflict until now. How bad is it? Jiwan asked, stepping up to the platform. A Navari officer clicked rapidly, and the map zoomed in to show several star systems. Red markers indicated attack sites. 3 Navari outposts and 2 human colonies were hit within the same hour, Queen Zithara explained. The attacks show planning and coordination. They're testing our alliance, Jiwan realized. The Queen's antennae twitched in agreement. The Craxians believe our arrangement is a facade. They think by attacking simultaneously, we will prioritize our own interests and abandon each other. Earth Defense Command is requesting immediate consultation, said Subin, rushing into the room. They want to know if the Navari will help defend our colonies. All eyes turned to the Queen. Jiwan could sense the tension among her officers. Many Navari still viewed the alliance with humans as a strange experiment, not a true partnership. "What do you think we should do?" Queen Zithara asked Jiwon directly, surprising everyone in the room. Jiwon considered carefully before answering. "If we act separately, the Craxians win. They want to divide us. If we stand together, we show them and the galaxy that our alliance has real strength." The Queen was silent for a moment. Then she turned to her officers. "What began as diplomatic convenience has become something more valuable," she declared. "The Navari will stand with Earth. Prepare our battle groups to coordinate with human forces." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. G1 worked with Subin to establish communication channels between Navari and human fleet commanders. It was challenging. The two species had very different ways of fighting. Humans relied on technology and strategy, while the Navari used overwhelming numbers and their natural biological advantages. "This is the first true test of our alliance," Subin said as they worked. "Everything until now has been talk and ceremonies." Jiwon nodded. "The Queen is taking a risk." Some of her advisors argued against helping humans. And what did she say to that? She said that evolution requires adaptation, that the old ways of each species fighting alone no longer serve the future. The combined human-Navari forces launched a counterattack against the Craxians. Early reports showed success, but the situation remained dangerous. 3 days into the conflict, terrible news arrived. A Craxian strike force had attacked a Navari transport ship carrying young larvae, the equivalent of children. The ship had been moved away from the fighting but was discovered. "The Queen has ordered all available ships to assist," a Navari officer informed Jiwon. "But our nearest vessels are 2 hours away." Jiwon checked the map. A small human scout ship was much closer to the transport. "I need a fast ship and volunteers," he said to Subin. "What are you planning?" Subin asked, concerned. "Those larvae are the future of the Navari. If we let them die when we could help, this alliance means nothing." An hour later, Jiwon was aboard a small, fast ship with 4 human volunteers and 2 Navari guides. They reached the damaged transport ship before the Craxian attack force could return to finish the job. "The life support systems are failing," reported one of the Navari guides as they docked with the transport. "We must transfer the larvae quickly." Inside the transport, Jiwon saw for the first time the young of the Navari species. They were smaller, softer versions of adults with translucent exoskeletons that would harden with age. Their compound eyes seemed enormous in their small faces. There were hundreds of them, attended by adult caretakers who had been injured in the attack. "We can fit about half on our ship," Jiwon calculated. "The rest will have to wait for the Navari vessels." "The life support will fail before they arrive," said an injured caretaker. Jiwon made a quick decision. "We'll transfer as many as we can. I'll stay behind with the rest and try to repair the life support." "That is too dangerous," the Navari guide protested. "There's no other choice," Jiwon insisted. "Just show me what to do before you leave." For the next hour, Jiwon worked desperately to keep the transport systems functioning while the youngest and most vulnerable larvae were moved to the rescue ship. He was working on an oxygen recycler when the ship shuddered violently. "Craxian ships have returned," came Subin's voice over the communication system. "We can't wait any longer." "Go," Jiwon ordered. "Get those young ones to safety." "We're not leaving you behind," Subin argued. "That's an order, Diplomat Lee. Complete the mission." The rescue ship undocked and fled just as the Craxian vessels opened fire on the transport. Jiwon gathered the remaining larvae and caretakers in the most protected section of the ship. A ceiling panel collapsed, striking him in the head. As his vision blurred, he saw a Navari caretaker leaning over him, clicking urgently. Then darkness. Jiwon woke in the medical bay of the Navari hive ship. His head pounded and his left arm was in some kind of healing device. As his vision cleared, he saw a massive form beside his bed. Queen Zithara had somehow fit her enormous body into the human-sized medical bay. Her compound eyes were fixed on him. "The larvae?" Jiwon asked, his voice hoarse. "All survived thanks to you," the Queen said quietly. A Navari battle group reached the transport minutes after the Craxians returned. Jiwon tried to sit up, but couldn't. The war? The Craxians have retreated for now. Our combined forces proved stronger than they expected. Good, Ji-won said, relaxing slightly. The queen moved closer, her huge form somehow seeming gentle now. You risked yourself for Navari children, she said softly. My children. It was the right thing to do, Ji-won replied simply. Among the Navari, such an act. She hesitated, searching for words. It transcends politics. It makes you family and truth, not ceremony. As Ji-won recovered, word of his actions spread throughout both human and Navari space. What had begun as an awkward diplomatic arrangement was evolving into something unprecedented in galactic history, something that neither species had words for yet. A year had passed since Ji-won Park had accidentally proposed to Queen Zithara. The human-Navari alliance had grown stronger after they successfully defended against the Craxian attacks. Trade between the species increased. Cultural exchanges became common. Some humans even visited the Navari homeworld as tourists. But not everyone was happy about these changes. Ji-won stood at the window of his quarters, looking out at the stars. His room had been enlarged, and now included many Earth items. There were books, plants from Korea, and even a small kitchen where he could cook human food. It felt almost like home. His communication device buzzed. The message was from Subin. New Earth ambassador arriving today. Urgent meeting requested. Ji-won frowned. He hadn't heard about a new ambassador. As the Queen's consort and official human representative, he should have been informed. 2 hours later, Ji-won entered the diplomatic meeting room. Subin was there, looking uncomfortable. Beside him stood a woman Ji-won had never met. She wore the formal uniform of Earth Command with many medals and rank insignia. Captain Park, I am Ambassador Hee-jin Kim, she said, not offering to shake hands. I have been appointed as Earth's new official representative to the Navari Empire. Ji-won was confused. I wasn't informed of any change in diplomatic status. That's part of the problem, Ambassador Kim said coldly. Your communications with Earth Command have become irregular. Subin looked apologetic. There have been concerns, Ji-won. What kinds of concerns? Ji-won asked. Ambassador Kim gestured for them to sit. I'll be direct, Captain. Earth Command is considering recalling you. There are questions about your loyalty. My loyalty? Ji-won repeated, shocked. I have served Earth faithfully for over 10 years. And yet, you spend more time with the Navari Queen than with your own people. You have adopted their customs. You saved Navari children at risk to your own life. Some officials believe you have gone native and no longer represent human interests. That's ridiculous, Ji-won protested. The alliance has benefited both species. Trade is up 300%. We defeated the Craxians together. How is any of that against human interests? I agree with you, Hee-jin nodded. But they want you to prove it. They want access to Navari biotechnology, particularly their genetic engineering advancements. Ji-won felt a chill run through him. Those technologies are sacred to the Navari. They use them only for healing, never for weapons. Requesting access would be seen as a profound betrayal of trust. Nevertheless, that is what Earth Command wants, Ambassador Kim said firmly. Either you secure access to those technologies, or you will be recalled and replaced. After the meeting, Ji-won walked slowly through the hive ship corridors. The Navari workers and drones they passed now recognized him and made respectful gestures. Some even attempted human greetings. He had become a familiar and respected figure in their society. Could he really betray their trust? For the first time, his duties to Earth and his loyalty to the Navari were in direct conflict. That evening he met with Queen Zithara in her private chamber rather than the formal throne room. Over the past year, these more personal meetings had become common. The Queen had even modified part of her living space for human comfort, with smaller furniture and normal gravity. You seem troubled, Ji-won, the Queen said. After a year, her translator had been perfected to match his speech patterns. Ji-won hesitated, then decided on honesty. Earth has sent a new ambassador. There are questions about my role here. They doubt your loyalty, the Queen said. It wasn't a question. Yes. And they want something in return for continuing our alliance, something I'm not comfortable asking for. Our biological technology, the Queen guessed. Jiwan looked up, surprised. How did you know? It is what I would ask for if our positions were reversed. It is our greatest advantage. The Queen's compound eyes seemed to soften. You are torn between two loyalties. Yes, Jiwan admitted. For the first time, I don't know what the right path is. The Queen was silent for a moment. Then she said, I have my own dilemma to share with you. My council insists I must begin a reproductive cycle immediately. Traditionally, this would end any external attachments. I would retreat into the birthing chambers for nearly a year. I understand, Jiwan said, though the thought filled him with an unexpected sense of loss. Your duty to your species comes first. The Queen's mandibles clicked softly. For the first time in my life, I find myself questioning what duty means. The traditional path ensures Navari continuity, but perhaps not Navari growth. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, each considering their position. What will you do? Jiwan finally asked. What will you do? The Queen echoed. That night, Jiwan couldn't sleep. He found himself wandering to the palace observatory, a large dome where the stars were visible in all directions. He was surprised to find Queen Zathara already there. You couldn't sleep either? He asked. Navari don't sleep as humans do, she reminded him. But yes, my mind would not rest. They stood side by side, looking at the stars. The Queen had to lower her massive form to match his height, but she did so without comment. In all my centuries, she said quietly, I never considered the stars as anything but strategic positions. You've shown me they can be something more. How old are you? Jiwan asked, realizing he had never known. In your years, about 300, the Queen replied. I am young for a queen. And how long do Navari queens live? With proper care and barring violence, perhaps 1,000 years. Jiwan tried to imagine living so long. That gives you a very different perspective than humans. We rarely live past 100. Yes, you burn so briefly, yet so brightly. The Queen turned her huge head to look at him. Perhaps that is why you accomplish so much in so little time. You cannot afford to waste your years. And is this past year a waste? Jiwan asked. No, the Queen said firmly. It is perhaps the most important year of my long life. It has changed how I see everything. The next day, Jiwan met with Ambassador Kim again. He had made his decision. I will not ask the Queen for their biotechnology, he said simply. It would destroy the trust we've built. If Earth Command wants to recall me for that, so be it. The ambassador studied him for a long moment. You truly believe in this alliance? I do, not just for political reasons, but because I believe both our species are better together than apart. You may be right, Heejin said, surprising him. My orders were to evaluate the situation directly. Earth Command wanted my independent assessment before making any decisions. And what will you tell them? That your loyalty isn't the issue. Your perspective is. You see things from both sides now. She paused. That's rare and valuable, even if it makes some officials uncomfortable. Later that day, Jiwan received a message from the Queen requesting a meeting in the Royal Council chamber. When he arrived, he found the Queen surrounded by her highest advisors. Their posture seemed tense, their antennae rigid. Consort Park, the Queen said formally, using his title. My council has reached a decision regarding our future. As have I. Jiwan felt a weight in his chest but kept his face calm. I am ready to hear it, Your Majesty. The Queen rose to her full height, towering over everyone in the room. For thousands of years, Navari queens have followed the same path, she declared. Today, that path changes. I will not abandon our alliance with humans, nor will I retreat from my duties as queen. Her council members clicked in obvious disagreement, but she continued. Instead, I will adapt. We will create a new process that allows me to fulfill my reproductive responsibilities while maintaining my consciousness and connections. Evolution demands adaptation, and the Navari will adapt. She looked directly at Jiwan. The future of both our species depends on it. 3 weeks after Queen Zithara announced her decision to change Navari tradition, the first galactic convention was about to begin. Representatives from 12 spacefaring species would gather to establish interstellar laws and alliances. It was a historic moment, and it would happen aboard the Navari Royal Hive ship. Jiwan stood in his quarters, adjusting his formal Earth Command uniform. The past weeks had been tense. The Queen's Council continued to argue against her decision. Earth's government sent mixed messages about the future of human-Navari relations, and now leaders from across the galaxy would arrive to judge their unusual alliance. Ready for the big day? Asked Subin, entering after a brief knock. As ready as I'll ever be, Jiwan replied. How does Ambassador Kim feel about today? Nervous, but hopeful. Earth has big plans for technology sharing and military cooperation proposals. Jiwan frowned. Including access to Navari biological science? Yes, Subin admitted. But they're offering human medical advances in exchange. It's more balanced than before. The Queen's Council will still see it as a threat. Jiwan shook his head. And now we have 10 other species joining the conversation, all with their own demands. The arrival bay of the hive ship was transformed for the occasion. 12 docking areas were arranged in a circle, one for each species. Special atmospheric. Controls allowed everyone to breathe comfortably in the common areas. Translation devices were provided to all delegates. Jiwan stood beside Queen Zithara as the ships arrived. She was magnificent in her formal attire, her exoskeleton decorated with shimmering metals and gems. Despite the ceremonial decorations, Jiwan could sense her tension. Her antennae remained perfectly still, which he had learned was a sign of intense focus. Are you worried? He asked quietly. Concerned, not worried, she replied. This gathering could change the course of galactic history, or it could end in new conflicts. The delegates began to arrive. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien, floating gas clouds contained in special suits, crystalline beings that moved like flowing water, creatures with too many limbs to count. Ambassador Hyejin Kim led Earth's delegation. She nodded respectfully to Jiwan and the Queen. Earth is honored to participate in this historic gathering, she said formally. The Queen's reply was equally formal. The Navari welcome Earth and all peaceful species to this convention. The opening ceremony went smoothly. Each species presented their hopes for the convention in brief speeches. Meals were served with food safe for each biology. Cultural presentations were shared on large screens around the hall. By the end of the first day, the mood was cautiously optimistic. Different species found common interests. Early negotiations on trade routes showed promise. That night, Jiwan met privately with Ambassador Kim to discuss Earth's proposals. The technology exchange needs to be handled delicately, he advised. Navari biological science is tied to their religion. They see it as sacred. I understand, Kim nodded. We've revised our approach based on your input. We're asking only for healing technologies, not reproductive or evolutionary science, and we're offering more in return. That's better, Jiwan agreed. But timing matters too. If it comes too early in the discussions, it will seem like Earth's only interest. The second day of the convention focused on borders and territories. This was more challenging. The Craxians, who had reluctantly joined the convention after their failed attacks, demanded expansion rights that others rejected. Arguments grew heated. Queen Zithara intervened with unexpected wisdom. Perhaps we are thinking too narrowly, she suggested. Space is vast. Our disputes are often about systems along our current borders. But what if we agreed to expand outward, away from each other, for the next 100 years? There are countless unclaimed systems in all directions. The proposal created a breakthrough. Species that had been arguing found new common ground in exploration rather than conquest. On the third day, as discussions about technology sharing began, an alarm suddenly sounded throughout the hive ship. "Unknown vessel approaching at high speed," announced a Navari officer, not responding to communications. The security feeds showed a ship of unusual design. It wasn't from any of the 12 species at the convention. "Craxian assassins," hissed the Craxian delegate, his scales flaring in anger. "Extremists who oppose our participation here." The ship fired on the hive ship, causing the entire structure to shake. More alarms sounded. "Breach in sectors 7 and 12, reported a Navari guard. "Intruders detected." Panic spread among the delegates. Some species were not adapted for any kind of physical conflict. They needed protection. Jiwan looked at Queen Zithara. Without words, they reached the same conclusion. "We need to evacuate the delegates to the inner chambers," Jiwan said. "My guards will create a defensive line," the Queen added. Together, they organized the evacuation. The Queen's guards formed a protective wall while Jiwan led the delegates through corridors he now knew as well as any Navari. They worked in perfect coordination, communicating with minimal words. Ambassador Kim helped, calming delegates who were unused to violence. Subin organized Earth security personnel to support the Navari guards. The intruders were eventually captured. They were indeed Craxian extremists, but their plan had failed. Not a single delegate was harmed. When the danger passed, the convention resumed in a new atmosphere of unity. Species that had been cautious around each other now shared a common experience of danger and rescue. On the final day, Queen Zithara addressed the reconvened assembly with Jiwan at her side. "What began as a diplomatic accident has revealed a profound truth," she said, her translator conveying the emotion in her voice. "Different species can find common purpose beyond mere alliance of convenience." She turned to the Navari Council. "Members present. I will fulfill my reproductive duties, but not by abandoning this partnership. The new biological protocols we have developed will allow me to maintain my consciousness and connections during reproduction." This was news to Jiwan. The Queen had not shared these details with him before. She continued, "This adaptation does not weaken the Navari. It strengthens us by allowing us to grow while maintaining valuable connections beyond our hive." To the Earth delegation, Jiwan added, "And the Navari have agreed to share certain healing technologies with humanity after we establish proper ethical frameworks for their use." The assembled delegates responded with their various forms of approval. The final documents of the Galactic Accord were signed by all 12 species. It was a limited agreement, focusing on immediate issues like territory, trade, and emergency cooperation. But it was a beginning. After the formal closing ceremony, as the delegates prepared to return to their home worlds, Queen Zithara found a moment alone with Jiwan in the observatory, where they had talked that night months ago. "You know," she said, her mandibles twitching with that now familiar sign of amusement, "when you raised that glass a year ago, even though I laughed, I never truly told you what it meant in its entirety." "Oh?" Jiwan raised an eyebrow, curious. In the ancient days, when a queen chose a consort from another hive, that gesture didn't just mean marriage. It meant a blending of hives, a new future neither could have achieved alone. Her compound eyes shimmered in the starlight. "Perhaps our ancestors were wiser than we knew." Jiwan smiled. "On Earth we have an old saying, sometimes the most meaningful relationships begin by accident." "Then perhaps," the Queen replied, reaching out one of her 4 hands to gently touch his shoulder, "our accident was the most fortunate one in galactic history." Jiwan looked up at the enormous alien being beside him. She was still strange to him in many ways. Her biology, her thought processes, her lifespan so much longer than his own. Yet somehow across the vast differences between them they had found something unique and valuable. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we build something new," Queen Zithara said. "Something neither humans nor Navari have seen before. It will not be easy." "The best things rarely are," Jiwan replied. Together they looked out at the stars, no longer distant strategic positions, but worlds full of possibility.